Hi, I'm AJ Block from Didge Project, and today's lesson is going to be about developing a stronger sense of rhythm by practicing very simple exercises with the metronome. I see a lot of musicians out there who are great at making good sounds and funky and awesome sounding, but their sense of rhythm is totally ungrounded. They speed up, they slow down, and it's almost beyond their control. And I used to be like that, but after years of practicing with the metronome very diligently, I've been able to finally come to a sense where I can hold a rhythm. I can basically become the drum machine or just ease into a consistent repetition. And that's what really makes music have a sense of grounding. What I want to give to you is just some very simple exercises that you can do. You don't need any instrument. We're just going to use a metronome and some clapping to do all of this. So if you don't have a metronome, totally fine. Just open a new window in your browser and go to metronomeonline.com. In fact, I'm going to be using the Metronome Online metronome for this whole session so that you can see it's all right here for you. You don't need to go out and spend any money. It's just like available. So the first thing to do is we're going to set the metronome at a pretty slow tempo, 80 beats per minute, and we're just going to work on clapping once every 4 beats. Seems really simple, but a lot of musicians struggle with this. So let's try that. I'm counting in my head. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, it seems really simple, right? Do it 3-4 minutes. If you nail it every time, you're ready to move on. Let's try another really simple one. We're just gonna clap 1, 3, and 4. We're gonna skip beat 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Notice how I make the clap on 1 the loudest. We're at 80 beats per minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1. If it seems easy at 80, you could try it a little bit faster. Let's go to 100. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 3, 4, 1. 3, 4, 1. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Some of you, seems really simple, right? But I know there's some of you out there that this is already a big challenge. Now, what you want to do is start getting into rhythmic subdivision with the metronome. By subdivision, I mean finding the beats between the beats. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the metronome again, 80 beats per minute, and I'm going to count out loud. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. These ands, or the beats between the beats, are the subdivisions that I'm talking about. And once you get a really good feel for the subdivision, you're going to be able to get into syncopated rhythms, which means playing rhythms that actually hit on these off beats. And then you get into all the different world music possibilities that are out there. And there are so many. So let's even go down to 60 beats per minute, and we're going to start counting the ands, the subdivisions. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. I'm going to start clapping now on the upbeats, the beats between the beats. So now that you can do the upbeats, the ands, and you're also able to clap on the downbeats. Let's try mixing them together. So we're going to stick with 60 beats per minute because it feels pretty solid. And you're going to go 1, 2, and 4. 1, 2, and 4. 1, 2, and 4. 1, 2, and 4. With the metronome now. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 4. 1, 2 and 4. 1, 2 and 4. 1, 2 and 4. 1, 2 and. Another one we see a lot in reggae music is 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 and. So you're basically playing every upbeat and the only downbeat you're playing is 1. So when you get to the end of beat 4, you're going to go 4 and 1 and. You have 3 notes in a row. This technically in a musical context, in like the Western music notation, is called 8th note subdivision because you're dividing the bar into 8 sub beats. Let's try that one I was singing. 1 and 1, 3, 4. 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 Okay, so let's try a world music rhythm that is syncopated, meaning it has both beats on the downbeats and upbeats. That's really popular in all sorts of Latin American music, Middle Eastern music, African music, and this is called tresillo, or some people refer to it as the first half of the 3-2 clave. Basically, it's a down on beat 1, up on beat 2, and down on beat 4. Or better said, 1, 2, and 3, 4. 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 Let's try this 80 beats per minute. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. It really helps if, as you're going through it in your head, you go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, let's try one that's a little more complicated. Let's go. One and 4. 1 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 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 and 4. 1 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 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So these these are all really simple exercises and you can really create your own. Basically, draw out a grid of 8 beats, or you could even just write 8 underscores, and you can write in 1, 2, 3, and 4, or you can write in 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and just circle the ones that you want to clap on. So for example, if I wanted to play 1 and 4, like we did earlier, I would circle 1, I would circle the and after 1, I would circle the and of 2, I would circle the and of 3, and I would circle beat 4. All the rest, I would leave the space. So 1 and 4. By learning these syncopated rhythms, you are going to develop a much greater sense of time. The metronome is not just about playing what happens right on the click, but if you can learn to play what happens between the clicks right in time, you're really going to ground your sense of rhythm and be much stronger as a musician. So thank you again for joining me. Again, I'm AJ Block from Didge Project. Follow us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and check out didgeproject.com for all the latest tutorials, articles, news from world music, and so much more. Thank you again. We'll see you soon.